Hey, welcome to my podcast. Today I have a special guest, Jeri Mae James. How are you today, Jerry?
Hi, I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing excellent. Thank you. You're a model slash actress. More of an actress, I think, but obviously you're doing some modeling work.
Yeah,
I've
I
seen
keep
you
it.
on coffee packages and such.
Yeah.
So how's everything going for you?
It's going pretty well. I was in my first ever short film this year, so counting that as a win for the year because it's really exciting to get to work on things outside of the internet. I love the internet, but it's nice to meet real people in person, you know?
Absolutely. You know, I was thinking back too. I saw you in Steven Sanchez's video,
Oh, did you?
which has God, 300 plus million views now or whatever.
I know, isn't that crazy? I had no idea it would blow up to be what it did at all.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. It's like, how did that come about, and how do you get that role, and then 380, 50 million views or whatever? I mean, that's crazy.
I know it was the reception of it. I couldn't have expected that. Well, what happened was I guess Steven had been following me on Instagram or something, or someone showed him my account. And then I got a DM, which, I get a lot of DMs being like, hey, baby, come. um, but it was just very earnest and sweet. And at the time, I didn't know who he was. And he said, hi, I'm doing a music video. This is my song. It's about to come out. Or I think it had been out, but it hadn't been like by the label put out. It had been kind of independently, I believe. I could be wrong about that. Um, but anyway, he sent me this song and he asked if I would be the lead. So it was really nice because I'm not the best auditioner for things. So to not have to audition is always really nice. But yeah, so he said, I'd love to have you in it. And I listened to the song and, you've heard the song. It's
Yeah.
just timeless and it's romantic. And I was honored to be offered. So I said yes. And then all of a sudden, there we are. And I realized it's a much bigger thing than I really realized. And,
Yeah.
the next thing I know, I'm on a billboard in Times Square and we're being spoofed on Latin television. It was more than I could have expected from a music video. So
I always wonder, it's like, it was that like a 1 day shoot?
yeah, it was really just like one afternoon.
Yeah. And,
Yeah.
and 2 years later, you're still getting 300 million views. I mean, that's something you don't really think about.
I know. I wonder often if it was just the virality of the song, or I mean, the director Daniel was so um, we got so much, like you said, it was one day to get all of that footage, and it was just so beautifully done. I just wonder if it's that people really like the visuals along with the song, or if it's just that song is everywhere.
I think it's both. It hits kind of a Richie Valens kind of 50s vibe.
Yeah, right.
He's got the I call it the crybaby, hair coming
Yes,
down,
yes,
you know.
yeah, definitely.
So, I mean, and then obviously your looks kind of all worked out. Did you have to bring your own wardrobe or did they supply it?
No, actually, I was pretty fortunate. I did work with the director. I showed him a bunch of things I had, but they had really specific. They wanted. They're using a filter on the camera itself that picks up sparkle and
Oh, I gotcha.
flare and everything. So, um, we looked at some of my gowns, and ultimately we went with a stylist named Chanel, who was very sweet, and she pulled the costume together. And actually, funny enough, that I'm in my studio right now, and this is the fabric I was holding in the end.
Oh, wow.
you know, they were kind enough to give it to me. So, a little souvenir from the
Yeah,
video.
exactly.
Yeah.
And you're like, hey, I got something out of it.
I mean, just to be on set was such a joy, and everyone was so nice. And that last scene with the fabric holding up, it was the very last shot I did of the day, and they had leaf blowers because
That's
that's
awesome.
kind of all we could think to use, and they were dying. So it was really like hard to get that shot, which I think is why you see me laughing in the final edit. I didn't know they were going to put it in there.
It was a pretty candid laugh. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, that's a real laugh.
When you look over and there's all these people with leaf blowers, like trying to get the shot before the leaf blowers die. It was,
Well, see,
um,
now I gotta watch it back, and
mhm.
you're giving away all the Hollywood secrets.
Yeah, movie magic, right?
Exactly. So how's it been for you being in Hollywood? And I know you're a fan of the old Hollywood, but I mean, what's it
What
like
gave it
actually being
away?
part of it? Oh no, but I mean, gosh.
Um, I mean, it's been quite a journey, I would say. I don't think I've had a very common path. I don't think I've taken the most standard route for things. It started off that way though. I really tried to do, the auditioning and the trying to get in the right rooms and everything. But I just, like I told you, I'm no good at auditioning. I don't know what it is. I get so nervous, I think. Um, so I really mostly just amassed a lot of parking tickets when I first started.
Okay.
Luckily now everything is, you know, um, through self-tape, but
Yeah.
at the time that was not the case.
I know you had to go, you had to show up. They say get there at 11. You show up
Be
in a
there
room
till
with
3
50
and
people,
yeah,
walk in and go, and they go, nope.
right. Or you walk in and you see about 50 different versions of you in different heights, weights, everything. And you're like, well, okay.
I remember I did the auditions. I mean, and I told you back in the early 90s, I was trying to do background stuff and all that. And then I was like, I'd go on an audition. It's like, I hated it. I
Yes,
mean, I absolutely hated it because I had to take time off from work
right.
and then I'd go. And then, like I said, I'd walk in a room and I'm like, why did they call me? Like, there's like,
Oh God.
guys were like way older or you're teenagers. And I'm like, why am I here? Like, I
Mm,
don't fit a group. Okay. I mean,
yeah,
you'd
that's
walk
always a
in,
red flag.
they look at you, they look at your card and they go, okay, thanks for coming in.
Right.
And I'm like, I take 3 hours of work off for this? What?
Hmm. I know, and you had to walk 3 blocks because there's no parking on, this day or between these hours, or yeah, it's definitely its own skill, I think. And I'm just not,
And it's not your skill.
I'm working on it, but it's definitely difficult. It feels very clinical. And I think being a creative person, that's kind of the antithesis. So you have to really make it play and make it fun. But you know how it is. A lot of times you're doing lines like, I'll have a soda, please.
You know the one I remember the most, and I don't know why. Uh, God, it was for it was going to be a commercial for Lipton iced tea,
Oh,
which I don't drink.
well,
So,
not starting off great, I guess.
yeah, exactly. So I had to pretend that I loved Lip, and then the director goes, casting director goes, so what do you love about Lipton iced tea?
I hate those questions.
And I'm like, kind of in my head, I'm just like, I hate it. I don't drink it. It's garbage. It's like, why they call it acting?
What did you say?
I forget. I just remember I think that was my last audition. I was like, nope, this is not for me. And I'm
Yeah,
like you, it's like, nope. And then so I started my podcast so I can just be myself. I don't have to pretend to be something.
right. Yeah. I found that for me, always being a creative person and having to rely on my own kind of two hands to make things that I wanted to see. Um, I'd done acting school. I went to a conservatory for college and I loved it. I loved like the constant emphasis on growing as an artist and like the safe space in every class is kind of focused on art. But the real world is not like that. And I think um, for me, the art doesn't shut off, I'm not a very good business person. I'm working on, being a little more street smart, but I'm definitely more an artist. And everyone collectively eye rolls. And I just felt like, well, if I'm not getting jobs, I'm just going to do the best I can by myself in the meantime, because I have to. Like, I can't shut it off. Um, so
Is that where your is that where your sets and all your photos come
yeah,
from?
yeah. Growing up, I was always writing little stories or little songs or things. I love to play and pretend is
Sure.
kind of my bread and butter as a kid. I I love to put my friends in costumes and we would play all these fantastical things. And um, my dad was really big into, at the time, those cameras that you hold on your shoulder, the big old ones with the VHS. States.
Yes.
Earliest memories are that camera being around, and so there were always cameras in the house, and I never used that one. I was too small, but
If you ever need one, I have one.
oh, really?
When
That's
my dad
fun.
passed away, I got it. Yeah.
Oh, that's so
Yeah.
special. Do you ever film on it?
I haven't. And
Yeah.
like you, like growing up, I wasn't allowed to touch it.
Right, me neither.
It was
Not
like,
that
how
one.
much this cost? I'm like, no. He goes, exactly.
Yeah. Isn't
So
that
don't touch
funny?
it. Yeah.
How much did those cost? Like I can't even, you know, technology is so accessible now. It's
Yeah.
funny to
And the camera I have on my phone's better quality than that
yeah.
thing.
But there is a charm to
It shoots film, like real
the
film. Yeah.
film. Yeah. I've just started getting into film photography and it's definitely a learning curve, but
Yeah.
I can tell I'm gonna be it's gonna be an expensive hobby for me for sure.
Compared to just taking a picture with your phone.
Oh yeah. Um, yeah, so where was I? I don't remember.
Oh, well, we were talking about the audition process and how you got down and how that's been
Oh,
going for you.
oh, that's right. Yeah, so I I was always taking my dad's other camera. It's just, I'm trying to remember. I know it took AA batteries, but I'm trying to remember what kind of camera it was. Um, and I would shoot photos and I just, like I said, I always needed an outlet. If it wasn't that, it was drawing and drawing to me was frustrating because it just took so darn long. With photos, you can get out there, take a photo, check it out, see how you did, and
Yeah.
learn right away. Um, so I've always been doing it. And yeah, it's funny how you look back and you're like, man, I've never changed. It's all just evolved somehow.
I was gonna, I know you're quite the voracious reader.
Yeah, I try.
Does do you think that the reading that you do affects the art that you do?
Oh, that's a beautiful question. I think so. I think so. Um, I really think that for me, and this is why it's hard with social media sometimes, I really view myself as kind of like not quite a radio tower, but like a television, like whatever I'm being programmed with, I
Yeah.
output. So I would say I think that's probably accurate. I don't read a lot of fiction though. Um, but even so, I think just learning about experiences of other people and I put that all in my work. I try to.
Well, yeah. I mean, m most of your photos are vintage looking.
Yes.
I think that's fair to say. Yeah. So it just like I just curious, like if you see a picture or read a book and it has some of the old Hollywood, like my wife and I, we love watching there's on if you go on YouTube, they have driving tours of LA in the 40s and 50s.
Oh my God, I would love to go on
And
one of those. Can you imagine?
yeah, I mean, like we just yesterday we were watching and they were going towards downtown and all you could see was the city hall building, the police
Right,
department.
right.
And that was it. There was nothing else around it. And
And
now
some
it's like one of the
fields. Yeah.
smallest buildings in the area.
Yeah.
So it's just amazing to see those.
Oh, I love those kind of things. I watch a lot of documentaries and things.
Mhm.
Um, I was just watching one about, the irrigation of Beverly Hills and how all that came to be. And it's
Yeah.
just, yeah, I would love to go on one of those tours. I've often thought, like, I want to go on a Hollywood tour, but I'm worried, they're not going to point out Lucille Ball's old home or, God forbid, the things won't be there anymore.
You
I'm
should
really
do it.
curious.
You should
I'm
do
really
it.
curious what they show now, though.
For 50 plus years, I always swore them off, right? Always. I'm like, I'm not going to go on a stupid Hollywood tour. It's like I live here. It's like, my daughter was going off to college and I go, what do you want to do before because she was going back east to Maryland. And I go, what do you want to do? She goes, I want to take one of those Hollywood bus tours. And I go,
Oh,
really?
cute.
I go, really? Yeah. All
When
right.
in Rome.
So we go there and we're right on Hollywood by Hollywood and Vine.
Mhm.
And the guy comes up, do you want to go on tour? And I go, yeah. I go, how much is it? He goes, oh, it's like $60 a person. I go, get the F. Nope. You know?
Really?
And he goes, do you live here? I go, yeah. I go, we live in Redondo. And my daughter just wanted to go on it. He goes, 20 bucks each. I go, all right.
That's more doable, but still, for a seat in a car, that seems kind of steep.
But I was like, all right. So as soon as we get in the van, we literally turned the corner and he goes, has anyone in the bus ever seen Pretty Woman? We're like, well, yeah. this is the apartment building that she used, and I'm like, what? It's right off Hollywood Bowl. I mean, it's
Really?
50 yards. And I'm like, I've driven by it 100 times.
Yeah. I love things like that. That's why I
Yeah.
love LA so much. I know for a lot of people, they're like, LA has a dark energy and it's all these things. And I think every city has its darker side. I think like when you put that many people together and it's gonna have variety, let's say. But
Good
I
word.
love I love um the hidden in plain sight things like that.
Yeah.
I was driving through Hollywood Hills. Just I have a little convertible. I like to just go for drives. I feel like I'm in To Catch a Thief, like I'm Grace Kelly going around those turns.
Yeah.
um, and I'm looking by this house and I go, God, that house is stunning. And I have a pretty good eye for how old things are. And I said, I'm gonna Google because I like to see the inside of houses because I'm nosy. Um, so I go up to it and I realize, oh my God, this is the Double Indemnity house. And it just, of course it is, but
Of
it's
course.
just funny how it's in plain sight.
Yeah.
That's where Walter Neff walked up those steps, which funny enough was my last Halloween look I did. But um, I love that. I love that.
That is the cool part. Like, if you ever see the Sunset Towers,
Hmm.
and then if you Google that and you're like, okay, well, John Wayne brought his horse up there allegedly to
Yeah.
the party,
Oh yeah.
and millions of people drive by that and never look up and kind of go, I wonder, wow, what about the stories that the place.
Yeah, that's my favorite thing. And that's why I kind of get, um, I guess, gloomy about the prospect of, all the development in LA and them tearing down historical or even just vintage things that have been there a long time. Because to me, it's like LA is unlike any other city in America, really.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that that's kind of an underappreciated part of our culture is, the value that old Hollywood kind of has had on, like, I mean, it's really shaped the industry that Hollywood is today, and for better or for worse. But I don't know. I just wish that LA was a little bit more precious with their history and their landmarks. And
See, I do the same thing, but I think the quandary that we run into is people like my daughter's age and even younger now,
yeah,
they don't know any of this stuff.
I know, but that's the shame, isn't it? That it's not kept alive in any way.
I know. I have a friend who's knows nothing about pop culture, nothing.
Right.
So I go, one of my drives, I go up to the 5 freeway and I
Mhm.
go over the 46 into Paso Robles.
Okay, yeah, I know Paso. Yeah.
Well, that's the last road of James Dean. He died he went to Blackwell Corner and then died in. So I took a video and I posted on my YouTube page and my friend goes, "Who's James Dean?"
No.
And I'm like, "Get out.
I
You're
mean, I
kidding."
get not knowing maybe, uh, John Gilbert or something, but James Dean, that,
She had no clue.
wow.
So I'm like, so now it just I always have to think about that, because I go, not everyone does know about James
Right.
Dean.
I
Just
know.
they don't know. They don't know what they don't know.
Well,
So
they're missing out.
I agree. But he was huge when I was growing up. I mean,
Yeah,
and he had passed, God, before I was born. But it's
yeah,
still, Rebel Without a Cause, Giant,
giant, yeah,
all the movies. It was a big deal. So,
yeah,
but I have to appreciate people not watching Prince. They haven't seen Purple Rain.
yeah.
And you're
It's
like,
so
what?
true. Culture goes a mile a minute, doesn't it? It's
Yeah,
especially
no, especially,
nowadays. Yeah.
you know. So you have a certain look. So as traveling, I was just going to ask you, does it, I mean, when you're driving around, I'm sure you have the little scarf and the sunglasses and your convertible.
You must have seen me around town before.
Now, I can imagine. Is it how much do you get stopped and talked to?
Um, Probably less than you think. I think that it's kind of like Las Vegas or New York. I mean, LA, we're pretty used to colorful characters out
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, but every now and then I'll say, usually not so much in my car, although my car is, I didn't realize it was going to become such a classic. I have a little Miata, and
Oh,
I
okay.
didn't realize people stop me more about my car than anything else. So, um, but definitely when I'm out walking, I think I get stopped more.
I oh see my I'm like you. My first car was a 62 Ford convertible,
Nice.
but in the 80s it wasn't vintage. It was just an old car. It was
Right.
just like an old beater as it were. So now I wish I had it,
Mhm.
'cause now it's a classic. Now it's worth a lot more. But my
Yeah.
dad bought it for $1,000. I was like,
Yeah.
um, but so I know in LA you might not get the looks. I was curious when you go outside of LA proper,
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
what's that like?
What's it like? Well, I would say that most of the time it's actually very pleasant. Most people are kind of tickled, if not, downright exuberant about somebody that's a little bit more dressed up or a little more um, unusual from their everyday kind of thing. I think also a lot of people have a soft spot for, especially 50s. Growing up as little kids, I don't know about you, but for me, it was like a thing to have a 50s party where the girls wear poodle skirts. And so there's sort of this, I think having Grease come out, you know, and be such a popular thing, a lot of people just have a warm fuzzy for 50s in general. Um, and so I think more than anything, people are pretty nice. Of course, there's the uncouth people that don't really know um, how to take in something different. There's a certain type of person that uh, seems to have let's say, an unusual reaction. Usually it's very positive. So,
Yeah. Do
yeah.
you get more stops and stares as a blonde or the brunette?
Um, Good question. I I think that the blonde catches more attention just because it's bright and it's
Because they have more fun.
obviously not super natural in color. Um, but both. I think just because the way I style myself in general, I get
Yeah.
quite a bit of double takes.
Well, yeah. I mean, I've taken my wife to Target before, and she gets dressed up, and I'm like, "What are you doing?" She goes, "I just want to dress up." I'm like, "We're going to
Yeah.
Target." She goes, "I don't care."
Yeah, and that's the thing I think also, and I'm sure your wife could commiserate with me on that, is that a lot of times it's kind of like this is my normal,
Yeah.
and then I forget because I'm so used to my bubble of my life, and my boyfriend doesn't think twice, and my friends all know, and um, that's just what I look like, and it is especially when you go out to like the beach or something where there's a lot of public people concentrated in one area. It does feel more like being dressed up. You're like, oh, I forgot.
Exactly. My wife doesn't forget. She just doesn't care.
Well,
She's
good
just
for
like,
her.
yeah. I
I
mean,
love.
because we go to the like Cicada Club,
Oh, love that. Yeah.
and yeah, and that's when I go, oh God, I gotta wear the tux or something.
Uh, I bet you look nice.
But for me, it's like I'm just, I don't, I enjoy it, but not as much as her getting. I mean, she'll spend 4 hours getting ready for it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, give me a half hour break. Give me a half hour heads up when you're ready.
Well, for guys, it's easy. For women, it takes a little while to get all our ducks in a row.
That's a good word for it.
I
Does the boyfriend appreciate how much work goes into it?
think so. I mean, uh, he doesn't. He doesn't really care what I look like. He likes me best, probably just whatever makes me happiest. So for him, he's like, I just want you to be happy. Um, but yeah, I mean, of course, he sees work is the wrong word because for me it's kind of pleasurable, to
Sure.
I take my time. I sit down, I put on music or a documentary or a podcast and kind of get ready. Obviously, if I have a deadline for something, it's not always as luxurious, but I think he has an appreciation for just the passion I have for things and um, definitely the effort that in general a lot of women put into their appearances.
I,
Uh,
I've told my wife many a time I would never want to be a woman.
No, but it's
No,
fun.
no, way too much work.
Oh,
Stress, hair, clothes, the outfits, makeup, eyelash. No, no. So,
well, never say never.
oh no, I'm saying never. All the recent stories of having to wear a dress in Hollywood as a man, it's not a good thing.
No,
You
I
haven't?
don't know. Think about it though. A dress is nice and roomy. You
Nope.
can really.
Now, see, if you call it a kilt, then maybe I can get into it. But
Oh, so it's about the name for you.
maybe it is. I
Hmm.
wouldn't wear a kilt either. Maybe.
Maybe we'll unpack that another time.
Yeah. I mean, I get for Halloween, we were Danny and Sandy for one Halloween.
Oh, were you?
We did the Pretty Woman. I was Richard Gere. My wife spray painted my hair gray and got a brick phone, and
Oh, how fun.
she did the whole costume. So
So you guys really go out for Halloween then?
she we tried. Like this year, she's going to a friend's daughter's wedding down in Mexico for
Oh,
actually on the day after Halloween. So
okay.
we're missing Halloween this year, but that's okay. We'll get dolled up. I'll have to show you our engagement photo. She did we went to the Hollywood Forever Cemetery and did the Dias de los Muertos, the Day of the Dead.
Mm-hmm.
So we did that skeleton face
Oh, that's cool.
makeup, and that was our engagement photo.
Wow, I'd love to see that.
That was Day of the Dead, right? Till death do us part kind of thing.
That's romantic. I like that.
There you go.
The Hollywood Forever is so beautiful. I love cemeteries. They're so peaceful, you know?
Well, they better be.
Well, yeah, let's hope.
I, I,
If they're not, be worried.
I just recently visited the Westwood, and
Oh yeah. I
I
haven't
was
been there.
like, "You've never been there?
No, I have plans to go to Forest Lawn. The last time I was in line to go, it was a line and it just seemed like
You've never been to the Westwood Memorial?
mm-mm,
No.
mm-mm.
Are you kidding me?
I promise.
Do you know who's buried there?
Well, that's the thing. I really want to go, but I just I don't usually like I'm working so much. I just don't really have a lot of free time, but I should go. I'd love to go.
I mean, you know who's buried there, right?
List them off for me. I'm sure many people.
Marilyn Monroe,
Mhm.
Hugh Hefner, Dean Martin,
Oh, yes, of course.
Truman Capote,
Yeah.
um,
I mean, that's I would love to go.
Rodney Dangerfield, Jack Lemmon,
Oh, Jack Lemon.
Farrah Fawcett, Ryan O'Neal, uh, there a ton. I went there probably 2 months ago.
Yeah. Well, see, that's the thing. I don't have a lot of people to go with, and obviously my boyfriend would go with me, but he works kind of crazy schedule, so it just hasn't lined up. But I would really love to go. It's on my list of
See, I put
things.
it off forever but I'm like, I literally have driven by it 1,000 times. I mean,
Yeah,
straight off Santa Monica, and you're like,
yeah,
it's hard to find. Like,
yeah. That's the other thing. And I know they have
like I've been
events
up
and
to San Fernando, the San Fernando Cemetery. Ricky Bounds is buried there, and Chuck Connors, and some
that's
others
so
are up
fun.
there.
Yeah, I would love to go. Like I said, we were just going to go because we were going to do the whole. We were actually going to go to the Hollywood Forever, after we went to Forest Lawn because I wanted to go see Jean Harlow.
Yeah,
Um, but as I said, we were just kind of dumb about it because again, with our schedules, it's hard to get time when we're together, and I don't know if I want to go alone. Um, and we got some flowers, and we were in like ready to go, and of course we didn't think of it, but it was a Sunday, so we got there and realized, oh, there's people. I don't want to like interrupt anyone having actual funerals or
yeah,
anything. I'll come back on an off day, so it's on the list. But
I hear you.
yeah,
I'm the same way though. It's to me that's kind of the old Hollywood. Like, I mean, there's so many things you can look up and just see.
yeah,
That's where the old Playboy Mansion used to be, I guess now.
right.
You know,
I know. Kind of uh, interesting how much it's all changed. I One thing I really wish I would have been old enough or alive to have seen is the Pink Palace over there, Jane Mansfield's.
yeah. And the Brown Derby. I mean, there's a couple.
Oh, Brown Derby, yeah,
Yeah, there's definitely a couple. I mean, but
Zero.
like the Hotel Roosevelt's still pretty cool.
Yeah, there's the Roosevelt. I love going to the Formosa,
Yeah.
um, Beverly Hills hotels. Kind of as old as it gets, really. Um, but yeah, there's so many. That's what I love about it here. There's so much to see.
How long have you been in the Los Angeles area?
Well, with a residence, so there was. I say that because I went to school in New York City in college, and then I finished in LA. So I lived in LA. I lived right off of Franklin, um, but that was dorm living, and that was kind of a different situation. And then I moved back home. I grew up in California, so it wasn't too far, but it wasn't LA by any means. And then it was kind of hard getting my way back because, of course, you need money, and I was working multiple jobs, and I just didn't know anybody out here. And then I kind of had I've had many instances of sort of a negative situation that I turned into something positive. And one of those things got me out here to move to LA. And I think that was, gosh, I can't even remember when that was. Was that maybe 2017? Maybe 2016. But that whole time I didn't have anywhere to live. So I was sleeping on couches or floors, or eventually at the restaurant I was working at, a waitress that I worked with was like, you can stay with me. I have one bed, but it's a king. So we can, you know. Um, and so I got my first place, which was this little dinky. They called it a junior one bedroom, but I mean, you couldn't open the oven and the dishwasher at the same time because it would hit.
Yeah.
Um, and that was in Van Nuys in, gosh, when was that? I want to say 2017 or 18. So I've been here for a while. I've had to kind of slowly work my way up to a place with furniture in it and all those nice things. Uh, yeah, I've been here for a while. It's just, I didn't have a lot of friends out here, and a lot of, I was pretty young. And so a lot of the friends I made weren't interested in all that old Hollywood stuff. They wanted to go to the clubs, and
Yeah.
that's just not really my scene. So yeah,
What's your
making up
scene?
for time.
Which
Yeah.
what do you consider your scene?
Well, uh, I would say I love to go out to eat. So, like I said, I love going to old Hollywood restaurants if I can, Musso and Frank, or um, like I said, the Formosa, things like that. I tend to go to a lot of museums. I love. Have you been to the old Max Factor building, the
Hmm.
Hollywood Museum? Yeah, I love it there. They kind of know me there every time I come. The lady that sits at the front, that she's always, smoking cigarettes. And she's like, I remember you. Because I probably walk in so moony-eyed and everything. I just love how close you can get to everything there. They really let you kind of explore. But I love going to museums, bookstores, estate sales, movie theaters. Yeah, I don't know. I don't have a huge group of friends. I'm kind of a homebody, so
Yeah, yeah.
a lot of my scene is parked in front of my TV watching old movies, really.
I was gonna say, like, have you been into the Pantages and some of the old theaters?
Yes. Oh my gosh.
I mean, they're
Um,
phenomenal on the inside. Like you would never
yeah,
know driving down the street.
yeah,
It's inside some of these buildings.
yeah. We went to the Pantages, and it's just gobsmacking. But I know there's so many more theaters I really want to
Yeah.
go see. I just don't want to intrude or anything. You got to have a good reason, or be relatively inconspicuous, which is a little difficult for me.
I would, you could use that to your advantage of getting into
You
the
think so?
theaters, though.
I don't know.
I,
Maybe.
you absolutely could. I think if you just own it and they would let you in.
Yeah. Hmm. Well, when the news is like blonde woman arrested at
Ah.
the Egyptian or something.
What would they? Well, I mean, you got just ask.
Yeah, it's
They'll
true.
let you
But
go
I'm
in.
shy. I don't know.
You should go. Have you been to the Queen Mary in
The
Long?
haunted ship? No, I haven't.
It's not haunted.
No.
It's not haunted.
I don't know if I believe in haunting anyway, but no, I haven't.
You would love the history of that ship.
Yeah.
If you like that era, the 40s, 50s, 60s era, and who's been on that ship, it's everybody. I mean, it was the way to go from New York to London.
Wow.
So you would love and go to the observation bar.
Okay.
It's still all Art Deco. They have the Art Deco festival there, and my wife and I went to it one year, went to the dinner and all that.
Mhm.
Everyone's just dappered up. It's nice.
Oh, that's so fun. I love things like that. Yeah, the Art Deco is a dying uh, art to say the least, but I'm so glad that we have that in LA. I think we're so lucky to have, because when Art Deco was Art Deco, there was money in Hollywood. So
Yeah.
you can really see some of the most beautiful
I try and tell people,
craftsmanship.
I always tell people, because they're always like, oh, you have to go to Hollywood. I go, Hollywood's not Hollywood of the old.
No,
There's still Paramount on Sunset, but I
right.
mean, the studio, the majority of the TV studios and all that are in the Valley,
Yeah.
and then now you have studios leaving the state.
Mm,
You have people starting studios in different countries and different states, and
right.
so it's kind of, actual Hollywood propers. It's a little deceiving, I think, for people that come and visit.
Yes, that's the thing that's tricky is a lot of people ask me like, where should I go? And
Culver City, the Sony slot, and then
I have a lot of recommendations, but it's all kind of with a grain of salt because it is going to be different. It's not going to be like in I Love Lucy when they go to Hollywood.
yeah,
Although I would love to go back just for the day, just to kind of see, what that must have been like when, Sid Grauman was still alive and there was still the old Hollywood uh, kind of, what would be the right word? Like culture going on at the time.
I think some of it's kind of the mystique of,
Yeah.
it's interesting because when you used to see, even like when I was a kid, like if you saw, I can't even think, if you saw somebody on TV, that's when you
Mhm.
saw them.
Right.
There was, I mean, you had the National Enquirer, but no one opened that. I mean,
Yeah.
but there wasn't the mass blast of, daily shots of what you're up to,
Yeah.
so you would only see them when you went to the movies.
Yeah, I kind of appreciate that. And I'm probably in the minority on that because I know that today, and I think rightly so, people want to know who they're supporting.
Yeah.
And I don't think that that is in any way a negative thing. Although I do find that glamour is a lot like magic. It's about what you can't see. It's kind of the illusion and
Yeah.
the mystery, as you put it, right?
Yeah.
Um, and so I do think that what comes to mind is like Gloria Swanson on Dick Cavett or something, where she's like, it's all ruined now.
Yeah.
We're showing ourselves too much. And I do think that lends itself to overexposure for people, which I think would be hard as an artist to feel not just like a craftsman, but also you have to be like on all the time. Um, but it's definitely, I guess, is it more authentic? I don't know. I
Well,
wonder.
like Denzel Washington you don't see him on
Right.
Instagram or TikTok, and he's one of the best actors in the world.
Right. But he comes from a time before.
Yeah, he's my age.
And I just wonder if people now could have that same
I bet
luxury.
you, I bet you, yeah. I mean, I think a lot of the younger celebrities when they're coming up, they're like,
Yeah.
oh, I need more exposure. I want
Yeah.
the million views and this and that. But when they get it, they're like, God, I want to be able to dictate when. I don't want to have to do it every day.
Yeah. Well, and I also think it's funny because it's so fractured, right? So you can have millions and millions of eyeballs on you and that doesn't mean everybody. Like, it wasn't like
Yeah.
everyone in the nation watching I Love Lucy at the same time on cable, like, because it's broadcast at for, 4 stations or whatever.
Yeah.
It's funny how it's so fractured now. So there's more fame and less fame, if that makes sense. I
You know,
don't
I
know.
I I know exactly there because there are people and they're like, oh, he's got 2 million followers. I'm like, never even heard of him.
Right.
Like, never even heard of XYZ.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
What, yeah. What do you think about that? Like, do you prefer it this way where everyone has their kind of niche idols and things?
I,
Or
I think it is what it is. I mean, you can't put the genie back in the bottle, as it were. I mean, you
right,
can't. People want to see,
right. Underneath it all.
yeah.
Yeah.
But sometimes when they see it, they're like, I want to go back to way, before I.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, look at all the stuff that can come out about Diddy. You know,
Yeah. And when that's the good side of it, right? Is that it exposes these things that people with too much
but
power
but
or
would
whatever.
Rock Hudson be a celebrity now? in today's he would be able to come out as gay, but then
Yeah.
there a certain amount of people still don't like people being gay.
Yeah. It's difficult because I think the thing that I love about old Hollywood, obviously, don't get me wrong, there's a lot that was wrong about the time. I'm not to be black and white. It's definitely gray. But for me, I think that it was really about people's talent, and the sort of lore was created through the studios and the fan magazines. And
Yeah,
I think that anyone with, like, relative uh street smarts, let's say, would know that, like, a lot of this is kind of fodder. It's kind of fantasy. It's a continuation of whatever character they play on the screen is playing out for you in these magazines, and it doesn't exactly mean it's the truth. I think most people were aware that that was, Luella Parsons isn't exactly
yeah,
like um, the most reliable of sources. Um, and I think in a way, though, it was an interesting time where you had to be really talented and you had to have something beyond just being recognizable. And I think that that's why. Have you seen It Can Happen to You, or It Should Happen to You, with Judy Holliday and Jack Lemmon?
no, well, maybe, but
I really recommend it. It's a film where I believe I think it was filmed maybe late 40s, early 50s, just based on the clothing. I think I would bet probably 49 or 50. And the whole premise is that this woman wants to put her name on a billboard. And everyone's like, why would you put all this money into that? It's like, a billboard became available. She had a little bit of cash, so she threw it at the billboard. And um, they're basically saying, nobody knows, who are you, though? It's
yeah,
just your name. And she buys, like, she gets to a point where she can buy like 50 of them. And then lo and behold, she becomes what would be like a modern day influencer. She's doing advertisement for soap because her name, people went, oh, you're the girl from the billboard. And she
yeah,
becomes like basically an influencer. She's, you know, the, every woman who's like, I want to be known too. And it's just interesting how it's kind of been prophesized even then that it was too invasive, and it's better to be known for something than just to be widely known, because we are so um, invaded on privacy wise. Just because everyone has a phone, if you see someone you recognize, you're going to take a picture. And it's an interesting thing how, Fred Astaire was famous because Fred Astaire was a great dancer.
yeah.
He like put a lot of craft and work into that. And it's not to say I have anything against anyone who's famous for just being famous. Obviously, you have something, you have a skill, but it must be hard to fall back on that. And just, I don't know, I would personally have a hard time not being acclaimed for like a service or something, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, but I don't really know. I don't know. Because I can see both sides of it, how some people prefer what we have today versus um, the more structured.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
Because if you could if you could have fame and money,
Yeah.
I always say this about like Kendall and Kylie Jenner.
Mm.
Like that, the Kardashian show started when they were teenagers.
Yeah.
So they didn't really necessarily have a choice,
Mm.
and all of a sudden they became rich and famous, and they don't dance, they don't sing, they don't act, they don't have a skill, like you said. But is it their fault?
Well, that's the thing. It's nobody's fault.
Right. And do you not, would you rather be broke and, living in a studio apartment because you haven't done so, or do you take it and run with it?
Yeah. Well, for me, I think that's just down to the individual, and really what the goals are, right? Like for
Yeah.
me personally, I I find that people are very fickle, and they love you one minute. And what did Marlene Dietrich say? She said, I don't care about what they love or what they hate because I've seen what they love, or something. Um, to say, not to say that um, it isn't nice to have people supporting you and things, but it's just, if that is your bread and butter, is just fame. I personally just, that isn't something I'm really interested in.
Right.
To me, if I could just get to create all the time at the scale and the quality that I would like to, that's heaven on earth for me. So,
Have you ever considered hosting? Because,
Hosting?
yeah.
I don't know. I'm a little scattered. I don't know what I would do with that.
No, but because you'd be able to be yourself. You're not pretending,
Right.
you're not acting, but yet you know so much about Hollywood. It would be kind of cool to have somebody that actually knew backstories of Hollywood.
Well, I've never thought about it. I think to me, I don't feel like I'm the most eloquent when I speak. I find I'm much better getting my point across through writing or through imagery. I'm very visual as a person. So um, I think the thing I want to do most is put all of that love and knowledge and references. And I just want to put that into the things I make um, as a way of kind of keeping it, alive, so to speak.
Sure.
But that is something to consider. I've never really thought about that. You mean like on
Red carpet type
a
stuff.
red carpet? Oh God. I don't know if anyone would know what I'm talking about.
Well, no, but you would be interviewing other actors, directors, and you could talk to
That's
them about,
that's true.
yeah.
Yeah, I wonder. I always find it interesting when red carpet interviewers ask people's favorite films and they reference something a bit older, and the public reaction to that is always kind of fascinating to see. Um,
Usually it's I've never heard even heard of that movie.
yeah, which I think is a good thing because if you're like me, I personally am just very curious. So to
Yeah.
me, oh, I'll put that on the list. I want to see what's that about. Uh,
That's why I have my podcast.
yeah, curiosity.
Yeah, I do that with people though. I'm like, I want to see, you know,
Yeah.
I want to see what's going on. The person that's going to be on the week before you is a female alpinist who's climbed more mountains above
Gee,
8,000 meters than any woman in the world.
that's crazy.
She's
Wow.
climbed every major mountain in the world on every continent in the world.
Wow.
So that was cool, right?
So cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's, but I don't know, the hosting thing would be cool for you.
Well, who knows? You never can say. I worry I'm just too shy. I don't know how I would do.
You're not shy.
I am though.
I think you need to give yourself a little more credit about not being eloquent and all that. You do just fine.
Thank you.
I don't know who you're comparing yourself to, so
I'm not comparing myself. I'm comparing myself to myself. When I write, I feel, oh, it all clicks into place. Or in an image, I feel like, oh, okay, I know exactly what I'm saying here. Um, I think that's my medium for communicating with others. That's probably why I love media in the way I do as far as photography and modeling and films. I feel like it can speak in a way that I just can't when I'm
have you
just
ever reached out to Michelin Pitt about trying to do some vixen modeling and that kind of thing?
I
Or
have a little. I mean, she's so sweet, and they've sent me some things, and
she's a
I've
really nice person.
taken photos for them.
Yeah.
Um, I'm very honored that because I know that for her it's such a personal brand. It's like her baby.
Yeah.
So to invite me to take photos and things, it's just nice to have somebody else be passionate about what they do.
Yeah. But and I mean, and she's seen the good and bad of Hollywood and that and business, as it were.
Yeah, I think being a woman out here, you can't help but experience that pretty quickly. I've
Agreed.
definitely had my share. But yeah, I think that's the nice thing about being part of. I don't know if I would say I'm part of it, but I'm definitely a fan of the community of people that uh, I guess go against the grain of what is, I guess we consider a trend cycle and really stick to what they're passionate about. I love passionate people and people that have a point of view. And um, I tend to, even if personally we don't know each other, I really respect um, what that takes. It means really betting on yourself, which is not always something we're taught
Not
to
easy to
do.
do. Yeah.
No.
I was going to ask you because you've done so much content online with TikTok and Instagram. I mean, I kind of looked up how many views you have on TikTok, and it's in the tens of millions,
Oh, I don't
right?
know. Is it
And
that
so
much? I
Oh, it
don't
is.
know.
It's in the 30 million plus.
No, me?
Yes.
I think you're thinking about somebody else.
I just counted. You have one that's
Well,
at 5.9.
gee, I mean, is that right? I don't know. Lately I've been a bit on their naughty list, I think. So
That happens.
it does. I don't ever know what I do, but
I don't either. Don't ask me. People ask me that because I have episodes that blow up and no one's ever heard them before.
really?
And then I have episodes that are really famous people, and I got naughty list. I had Tulsi Gabbard on, who was an ex-congresswoman and all that. And
You just never know what people are
my
gonna.
post got flagged for being political. And I'm like, she's not a politician. She's not running for office. We didn't even talk about politics I mean, just like a few minutes.
I didn't realize that would even flag you. That's an interesting.
Got me flagged.
Wow. See, I don't know. I don't know much about I'm not super great with the tech stuff, which is to my own detriment because I think it would behoove me to be a bit more savvy with that. Um, but wow. I guess I know that for a while there, I got on some kind of lucky streak where I was actually getting seen quite a bit. And that always comes with a lot of really kind of pinch me moments, but also you just really learn what people think of you from every
That's what I was going to ask you about
spectrum.
because I've had some episodes where some of my guests are controversial, and I
Okay,
leave up all the comments because I'm like, you know what? If someone's brave enough to say something nasty,
right.
you're gonna have
Win,
to
lose,
own
or
it.
draw, it's gonna go up.
You're gonna have to own it forever. I'm not
Right.
taking it because I could delete it, but I'm like, you know what? You put that
Yeah.
up there. Now, hopefully, in 5 or 10 years, it doesn't come back to hurt you.
Yeah, gee. That's the other thing is like
How do you deal with because I gotta assume that you get 95% positive comments and you get the 5% that are lunatics, but you tend to address them.
well, I guess probably most people's better judgment. I do sometimes address them, but for me, a lot of times I do get a lot of negative attention when, they say your video gets on the wrong side of the internet. It goes somewhere where the people aren't as interested in what you have to offer. Um, but for me, a lot of times I can't help but find sort of humor in that just because I think what I do is pretty small potatoes in terms of consequence in the world,
Yeah.
in this world that we live in. And when people react so strongly to it, especially when they're very wrong about something or have this kind of misunderstanding of me and my own understanding of myself or what I create, it does sort of tickle me. I can't. Part of me
I
just,
could tell it gets you going.
well, I mean, it's just too funny sometimes. I mean, the the usual sentiment is something so ridiculous and so off base that it doesn't hurt me. It doesn't,
Yeah.
I've dealt with adversity from, I guess, is adversity the right word? That might be too strong a word. I've dealt with negative reactions, let's say, and people betting against me kind of all my life. So to me, it's just like, all right, add it to the list,
Really? Why do you
Yeah.
think that is?
Um, I think, really, why do I think that is?
You think it's
Um,
insecurity on their part or
I think that mm, some of it is the environment I was raised in. I think it triggers something in people. It really makes them upset. Um, I really, I think it depends on the individual, but I think there's an overwhelming consensus that because of my physical appearance, I must be just absolutely vapid and stupid. And I like to let them think that, okay,
Marilyn did the same thing?
I can only prove you wrong, and I don't try to prove you wrong. I just gotta, if personally, in my opinion, now you got me going. If I would never judge somebody based on what they look like. I try to listen to what they say and what they actually mean. I think intent is more important than anything. I think people get caught up in semantics a lot
Yeah.
and really more like, what are you trying to say? Because we're all people and we all have different levels of education and points of reference and but weird things, that make us who we are. Um, but to me, if someone is going to discount me that easily for something, I don't think they're very smart. So what do I care? I mean,
I heard an actor say, I forget his name, Timothy Chalet or what, something Chalet,
Chalamet.
Chalamet. Maybe it was him. I think, anyways, he goes, if you have a problem with something I say, go ahead and give me a text and, or give me a call and tell me what bother you.
Yeah.
And if you don't have my phone number, I don't care. I don't care what you think.
Wow.
So,
Right.
so it's kind of like, if you got my
Interesting.
number, then I
Right.
respect you and we're friends and I'll listen to you. But if
Right.
you're just somebody on the internet,
Yeah, and that's the thing too, is I think some people it's it becomes their internet persona. Like we all showcase ourselves by going online and some people really want to get into like gritty authenticity and there's a lot of debate about how authentic that really is because
I can't.
anytime you pull out a camera, you're aware. But I think that there's some people that maybe they aren't creative or they aren't brave enough to share what they make. So they take on this persona of something else, which is
A critic.
somebody who's going to put people in place or, yeah. And so to me, it's like, okay, well, I'm showing you my thing. You showed me yours. And why shouldn't I be able to respond to it? I think a lot of times
I'm with you.
I try not to ever dogpile people because I do know that I have a position of more followers, but I do kind of think that if you're bold enough to, and it's never usually the first comment, it's someone who's habitually commenting mean things to me. And if I can find some humor in it, sometimes I'll pull one and say, okay, we're going to make a joke about this just to be like, okay, that's, I
Why
see
not?
you.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I try not to. I realized kind of recently that it's sort of disrespectful to the fans of what I do and the people that do support me to only really respond to the negative because here are all these wonderful people lifting you up. And the one negative one you give all your energy to.
Yeah.
So I've tried to do
And
that
just so
less.
you know, that is how it works. The algorithm.
Oh, I'm aware,
Yeah.
fortunately.
Because I sit there and go, because there's things that upset me. And I go, if I respond, then I'm going to get more of that in my
Yeah.
FYP page. And I don't want more. I want less. So I got to just go past it.
And those videos reach way more people. It's as soon as there's something negative, it seems like it's wildfire.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's I think it's some people's strategy and it's not a bad one because truly that is what gets views, I guess.
What Ryan Reynolds told me? Not told, he didn't tell me. I read was that with the Mint Mobile that he started, I think it was the Mint Mobile. Their social media plan was to like what's trending today? Hurricane Milton, right? The
Right.
hurricanes.
I
So
know.
what he does is on their post is put in whatever's trending for that day. So it'll come up in that feed.
Yeah. Interesting.
Even though Mint Mobile or whatever he does has nothing to do with a national disaster. He just wants it to come up in their feed. So when I type in hurricane, his post might come up.
I don't know how I feel about that.
I know but it's kind of. I mean, it doesn't have to be a national hurricane. It could be the
Right.
presidential election. It could be a debate. It could be
Yeah.
anything that's current that day is
Yeah.
what they go after. So
Yeah, and that's the thing. Some people are really good at the internet thing. I'm not so good at
I'm
that.
with you. I'm in the same boat. The number one question I get is, why don't you monetize everything? And I'm like, I don't want to. Like,
Really?
I guess I could now at the level I'm at, but I just takes the fun out. I don't want to do it for money. I'm not talking to you so I can make,
Right.
$3 on YouTube advertising.
Oh gosh. Is that the going rate for
I don't know.
just kidding. No, I understand. Yeah, I understand that. I think there's like I call it my damn artistic integrity. Can I say damn? Sorry. Um,
You just did.
I know, sorry. But that's how I feel. It's this thing of no, if it's good, it will attract the right people and it will do well because it's good. And I don't want to take anything and taint what is so um pleasurable about it, which is like for your
Yeah.
podcast, for instance, the pleasure of creating. Now, I don't know if making money would make it worse for you, but I can understand that it shifts the maybe the motivation, depending.
Yeah. Well,
If it,
it gives me the ability to not necessarily care.
yeah.
Like I always tell people because they're like, "Oh, how did you get, Jerry on the show? How did you get this person on the show? How did you get Jim Morris on the show? How do you literally?" And they're like, and I go, because I think it's like the only thing I can equate it to is when I really liked a girl and I asked her out, it really hurt when she would say no. So if I went into it saying, "Hey, would you like to go out and just go have fun?" More often than not, they would say yes because I wasn't so stressed about it. I wasn't, you
Mhm.
know,
Yeah. It's kind of
so
that let it be mentality, I guess, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I have the same way with a podcast. Like if you say yes, it's great. I'll do my research and have fun doing it and all that.
Mhm.
If you say no, it's like, okay. Like
Yeah.
I
Honestly,
definitely have more
yes.
no's than yeses. So
Yeah.
Lady Gaga hasn't gotten back to me yet, and Bradley Cooper,
Uh,
and, the president. I mean, they all seem a little too busy for me. I don't know. I don't know what's
no,
going
I
on.
can't imagine why. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
no idea. So I just don't let it bother me.
Yeah.
Put it out there. I was going to ask you one last question, I guess, was coming into Hollywood.
Yeah.
In some of your, I think, I don't know if it was in Shout Out, your interview in Shout Out or somewhere where I saw you've had some interesting people in your life that haven't necessarily helped your career who said they were going to be helping your career,
Mhm.
which has been a 70-year-old Hollywood standard
Right.
of
Cliche,
much
I
as
even say.
promises not kept. How is
Right.
that? How do you navigate that?
Well, at first, not very well.
Exactly.
Um, very poorly at first. Um, you know, I'm not, I'm not a dumb blonde necessarily. I'm not even really a blonde, but uh, I, I didn't realize especially when I was younger, it was kind of a series of events that happened, led one thing to another. But um, at first, I was always skeptical because you always have to be of when people say, "Hey, I've got this connection that could really change your life, and I see something in you." And of course, you want to believe that, but of course, there's a part of you that says, "Well, we'll see."
That's a good.
Um, the hard thing for me with navigating it was a lot of these people were very close to being the things they said they were. It was just whether or not their intentions were what they said they were, um, or their willingness to actually act on the things they said they would do. Now, I really believe in working hard for what you get. And so I wasn't expecting to just, you know, through connections alone get somewhere. For me, though, it was always about like, well, what can you teach me? Because I feel so green and you know how Hollywood, I'm sure just from your time auditioning and doing little things here and there. I mean, there's so many things you just don't know. And I didn't know what an AD was or what a green room was. I didn't know what anything was. So, but I really wanted to learn. So for me, I was thinking, well, if these people can just teach me things and make me a little less of a rube, kind of, that would be great. And so, as I mentioned, I don't know how much time we got, but
Yeah.
I have a handful of stories if you really want them. Um, when I moved back home after being at school, I was really down because, some of my friends towards the end of the semester, when we were going to be graduating from college, were like, look, I got an agent, or look who signed me, or I'm signed up for this play as soon as I graduate. And I was just,
Not there.
just sitting on my suitcase waiting to go home. And so I got reached out to by a person who claimed to be in the industry and by all accounts was in the industry, but that could mean that they hand out sandwiches at lunchtime. That doesn't mean, they
Craft
have a front
services.
office.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Um, but he had photos of him on set and he had all these things. And, looking back, and I would say I'm kicking myself, although it was the thing that made me move out here. So if you can believe it, this person um, basically told me that I'm not really serious about my dreams, being an actress and working in Hollywood because I don't live in Hollywood and I had just graduated school. I moved back. I had no money. So he said, if you're not here by this time with a job, we're not working together. I'm not going to help you. Well, to me, I was like, oh, it's laid out. This is what I need to do. So I reached out to some people that lived in nearby. I had an aunt that lived in Thousand Oaks that I wasn't particularly close to, but she had a guest bedroom. And I went to a local restaurant on Hollywood Boulevard and got a job. And I, I moved out here. I moved out here with nothing, and I was sleeping on couches, like I said, or people's floors. I had some kind of dangerous experiences in hindsight, but luckily I got through it all okay. Um, Only for him to then, once I said, okay, I'm here, I have a job, I'm sure comes as no surprise at my restaurant job, was like, I'm talking to him too. So this was like a big operation he was doing to, I don't know what, because he never made a move on me. He just kind of, I think, got a kick out of kind of manipulating me and belittling me. And because he would talk down to me. And, I met up with him once and I brought my boyfriend. He was in the car just in case, because, like I
Yeah.
said, I'm not stupid. I was just hopeful that he would actually help me. And then, I worked after that for a producer who was also an agent and had famous clients. I went to parties, I met big celebrities. He was really who he said he was, but once he asked me to get in the hot tub with him, I ran my butt out of there and that was the end of that. And I had, several other experiences like that where it's kind of, I guess it's difficult because not only is it cliche and it's disappointing, but it's also that like you thought somebody saw more in you than the obvious, I guess,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
what they're for. And you have to kind of reconcile with yourself that there might never be a person that comes to help you. And I think growing up, my dad is very he's got the fairy tale of Hollywood of you're gonna get seen like Lana Turner at the soda shop and
Yeah.
be whisked away. And so growing up I was told you're gonna get discovered. And I think when I stopped waiting and hoping that someone would see something in me and started to do that for myself, what is the quote? I saw an angel in the marble and I cut until I set it free. Kind of, I love that sentiment. I think that's why I love Mae West and all the old Hollywood actresses. They really had to, I mean, to some extent, not
Yeah.
all of them, but to really find something within themselves and cultivate it and make something beautiful out of it. And for me, it was definitely that way because I remember getting in the car after that um, incident. I had other incidences after, and it was eventually a final straw. But there was this moment where I thought, well, if no one's ever going to see more in me than, a roll in the hay, let's say, I know that I have more. I know that, and I'm scared of it because I don't think it's up to my taste level, and I don't think I'm necessarily educated. I'm really insecure about how little I know about cameras and about sets and about everything, but I know that I care about it. I know that I'm creative and I know that I want to learn. So it was that final straw kind of eventually happening, which took me, I kind of went dark for 6 months. I like shut down my life and thought, what do I want to make? if it's really just me and there's no one coming to help me and there's no one who's going to have my best interest at heart, no one's going to see something in me and help me cultivate it. If it's just me, what do I want that to look like? And how do I do that? And that's kind of really led me to where I am. So it's been it's been a negative experience, but in another way, it's kind of forced me to be more self-reliant. And I was already pretty self-reliant to begin with. So
Okay.
yeah, it's been it's scary because I have a lot of young girls say like, I want to be an actress, and I'm
I
just
know that's why I wanted to ask you about it.
I want to protect them so much.
Yeah.
And it's tough because I don't know what the industry is now starting out. I know with so much has come to light, I hope that it's better. But
Yeah.
to me, it's that those people weren't really the industry. They were on the fringe of it, but everyone I've actually worked with really in it is a relatively normal person. And these kind of what would you call them? Colorful characters, let's say. These kind of on the fringe people that feel they have something to prove, let's say, use that power to kind of
That's
take
what
it out on
I,
people
I,
like me who are just,
I don't
yeah,
think it's necessarily about the sex. I think it's about the power. I think that's what Harvey
right,
Weinstein and
yeah,
I mean, he could have sex with whoever he wanted, but he wanted the power over you.
yeah. I think it's from everything I've observed personally, it has always been some sort of um, not just power, but I think like a, and I know that these things are like relatively equal to each other, but it seems to have something to do with their own personal egos, not even the power over people and what that means to them, but the fact that like I don't it seems like it's a fun game for them beyond just, I'm stronger than you. It's almost like the spider with the fly, like it's almost
Yeah.
a game or something. To me it's I can't imagine being that way. And being the fly, I don't recommend. It's not been a good experience. uh, but yeah, it's strange, it's bizarre. It's unfortunately very common, at least from what I've heard of other people's
Yeah.
experience.
Well, even just to give you an example, like when I started the podcast, my daughter was probably 24, 25,
Mhm.
and I told her, I'm saying, I'm trying to think, I I was asking equally men and women, because it's whoever I'm interested in, that's who I want to on
Mhm.
the show, and I go, man, I wasn't getting success with women being on the show, and I go, I'm reaching out through business, through LinkedIn and all that, and my daughter
Yeah,
goes, oh, I get hit on LinkedIn all the time, Dad, and I'm like, what? I was
yeah,
just naive to it. Like
right,
I didn't think that that's something that as a guy, man in his 50s, that I would have to consider how it
right.
was coming off to women. It's like, so that's where I kind of came up with the mentality of, it is what it is. If you want to be on the show, it's great. I can't wait to have you, and I've had a lot
Right.
of wonderful female guests. So I think that helps now, but it, I never really considered it until she told me. I was like, wow, even on like a
Yeah.
business app, you're getting hit on. It's like, it's just, I don't think that way, but I guess a lot of men do.
Yeah, I guess so. Um, yeah, it's been an interesting experience to go from kind of being more dependent on other people's help to trying to navigate it myself. Um, I think I still get that sort of, you know, listen here, honey, kind of energy. But I think there's a level of, I don't know, I think that having my own thing that I've made, even if
Yeah.
some people consider it's relatively small or whatever, I think it comes across, which was my goal, that I do have a vision and I do have a point of view, and I'm I'm not so helpless as maybe those men at the time thought I was, and I think that helps kind of um, it's made me more trusting that when I have people reach out to me, Um,
Yeah.
it's for my work. It's for something beyond just, you know, a power thing or,
Yeah.
some spiders getting hungry or something.
But you're no longer a fly, so you're good.
No.
So you have the short movie come out with Nadine.
Mhm.
Do you have a release date on that yet, or do you know what they're
I
doing?
was talking to the director, Tosh, last night actually, and they're in post. They're still wrapping up some things, so we don't have a release date yet. I have a very small part, uh,
Okay.
you know, but I was just very honored that they were willing to include me. Um, Kind of came on last minute. I offered to be background because I feel like I can show up costume ready,
Exactly. I'm ready. I'm good to
because
go.
it's a period film. Um, and they were nice enough to write me in a little something. So yeah, I'm really excited about that. So
You'll
it's
get to do the red
scary.
carpet from the other side. See?
Oh gosh, yeah. I'm excited.
Do you know have they talked about how it's going to get distribution, or is it going to be?
I'm not sure. I mean, it is a short film, so I assume, which you know what they say about assuming, but I'm reckoning it's gonna be at some festivals. But I don't know from there. I guess we'll have to wait and see.
There you go. Well, as my listeners will undoubtedly start following you, I'm sure you'll,
Oh,
you'll do a post when it comes up.
yeah, definitely.
And what other kind of work are you looking to do? Because I know
Oh,
you're the coffee model now.
oh, gee. Well, it's funny how that came about was really just that Dominique, who runs Breakfast at Dominique's Hollywood Blends, um, she had sent me some coffee because she knew I was so passionate about old Hollywood and everything.
Yeah.
And it was on my TikTok. I wasn't in jail, so I was out amongst the people, and I made a video saying, "Hey, look at this cute coffee! I love it." I think it was like a Jean Harlow blend, who I love, and um, and a James Dean, funny enough. And I made a video just singing the praises of the packaging. I hadn't even tried it yet. And a little while later, she said, that brought a lot of business. And would you ever want to do a Jeri Mae James blend? And at first, I was like, "Are you joking?" Because your lineup is Ava Gardner and Ella Fitzgerald and
You
some girl from the internet.
right there.
Well, I don't think I quite equate. However, it was quite an honor and something that she was very insistent that she'd like to do and to branch out with more, living and modern old Hollywood enthusiasts.
Sure.
So, I mean, when she
You know what's
put
scary?
it that way, I said definitely.
You know what's scary is we're kind of breaking up there.
And yeah, we actually have a meet and greet this week. Oh,
Well, yeah, and you have the what's the other thing on Magnolia that you got coming up? Is that the coffee?
oh
Oh,
yes. This Sunday, I don't know when.
yeah, it'll be in the
Yes, we're
past. So
just doing a quick little tasting and meet and greet kind of. Everything goes smoothly.
there you go. Well,
Um,
I,
yeah. So the coffee modeling.
I
Huh?
you'll be a great
What'd you
coffee.
say?
Well, no, I was going to say
Well,
the scary part, like you're like, oh, Ava Gardner and Jean Harlow. Your TikToks have more views than this, than because they're 60 years famous 60 years ago, like we talked about earlier. More people
right.
are going to know you than Jean
Guess
Harlow.
so.
Kind of weird that way.
That makes me sad.
I know.
uh, that is that is interesting. A weird. I've never thought of it that way. Um, Gosh, that's the thing is, I think because I look up to what they created so much that I always fall short, obviously, because I'm one person. I'm not a studio with lighting directors and,
Yeah.
teams of people. Um, but my goal is really just to make things, but also could logically be in the line of like their cinematic grandchildren, if you
Yeah,
will.
yeah.
Like, I want to make things that seem like they came from somewhere, you know?
Mhm.
I was watching uh, a Cagney film recently, and as I was watching it, I couldn't help but think, this is Clockwork Orange. I mean, there's no way that this wasn't a reference. There's just no way. And I Googled it, and sure enough, you know, Kubrick
It was-
really loved Cagney, and I love that. I love that it's on this like kind of family tree. You know, the film industry is only 100 years old, so a little over 100. So, um,
for all of my younger listeners, that's James Cagney.
yeah, yes. Oh gosh.
James,
um,
like, well, it's Cagney and
yeah.
Kubrick. That's Stanley Kubrick. Yeah.
That's why my audience, I think, is primarily in the, we joke, I'm the Jeri and they're the geriatrics. We all,
Oh, don't say that.
my references, well, present company excluded, of course. But no, I've always been
We're not.
gotten a lot better with people a few years older than I am, with a couple more feathers in their cap and all.
Well, fortunately, I think Maryland kind of transcends some of that.
Well,
You know,
that's the funny thing, right? Is that I my reference for Old Hollywood Blondes starts with Harlow and even like Alice White and Mae West. Um, and then, you know, you've got Lana Turner, Betty Grable, Judy Holliday, Joan Blondell. Like there's so many. And I think that because of Maryland, there's this still kind of a cult thing about
yeah.
old Hollywood, which I am not naive enough to think that that's not why a lot of people like what I make. And I'm very honored that they think what I'm doing is even up to snuff to be something, you know, when you could watch the original Hollywood films to look at my things is very, I'm very honored. But there's so much more. And I think that's something people don't know. And I like
But
to expose that.
you know, like I said, doing the Gilda stuff,
Uh,
kind of being the redhead, kind of gets you out of the Maryland kind of catch. And then when you go to with your brunette, it's a different look. So yeah,
yeah.
it's fine.
Yeah. I think some people, I think, use Marilyn as a catch-all for 1950s or just vintage at all. I was talking to someone who's like, I have Betty Page kind of bangs and everything, and people go, man,
Well, you
uh,
did the Betty Page pictures,
yeah. Oh yeah, I'd love that. Um,
and she was a fireball.
oh gosh. I mean, she's a Southern lady.
Yeah. Betty Page, she was not to be
Yeah.
messed with.
I would have loved to have, if I had just been born a little bit earlier, I would have loved to have met her and Lauren Bacall and, you know, some of the icons that have since passed, but we're kind of lurking around every now and then.
Well, that's like when Maggie Smith passed. You
Right.
know, when I met her in 91 or 92, had to be, it was, I mean, I knew who she was, but, it wasn't blown away. Now I wish I would have gone, I'm like you where God, if I could interview Barbara Stanwyck and some of
Oh
the
man.
others,
Yeah.
like I would love to get some of their stories, but
I recently saw Anne Margaret in person, and I gotta say, I was disappointed in the interview because it seemed like the interviewer just didn't know what to ask her. So they kind of just kept saying, "You're a legend." And she's like, "Okay, what else? Like, what do you want to know?" You know? And I'm sitting there like, I have so many questions. I want to know so
yeah.
much. Um, gosh, yeah, there's a few of them left, and I think maybe you should reach out. I've heard Dominique, my partner for the coffee, she recently was like talking to Dick Cavett, which I would love to talk to him. I have so many questions.
I interviewed this year Bob Eubanks,
Oh, really?
and everyone knows him from the host of the Newlywed Game,
Yeah.
but he was the producer that brought in the Beatles for their first ever show in Los Angeles.
Was he really? Wow, I didn't know that.
He had to put up his house, the mortgage on his house, to pay the Beatles to play at the Greek Theater for their very first time.
Wow,
And I'm like, what? He was a radio DJ at the time.
that's so crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing. There's still so many people with such kind of incredible stories. Um, to me, it's like it's just so precious. I'm like, please, we need to document all of this. This is so interesting.
Much as
And
possible. Yeah. Well,
so
that's even some of the start people I've had on the show. I keep telling them you gotta write it down. Like,
yeah,
yeah,
please write it down. I know I have a close friend who has worked with, like Eartha Kitt.
should be awesome too.
Oh my gosh. And I'm like, please write all this down. I want to know everything. Um, Lots of people though. He was an actor on Broadway, so he did a fair number of things. I think he said he had met Bacall and just so many people. And that's something growing up, I think another thing that brought me to old Hollywood was just my dad was really into nostalgia. But as a kid, we had this photo on the table of my dad with Dick Van Dyke because he worked as a lineman for the phone company. And at the time, he was going to all these like, Hollywood Hills homes and Santa Barbara homes and putting in phone line. And so he got to meet Jane Russell, who
Oh wow.
I don't know if you know this, but Jane Russell was like my everything when I was little. um, and like, Dick Van Dyke. And so there's always been quite a reverence for the old Hollywood performers in my house growing up.
Obviously I was in the same boat. Just
Really?
yeah. My dad's favorite was Anne Margaret and then James Cagney. So
Really?
like
What are the chances of that? That's so
on
funny.
Saturday mornings, it was watching James Cagney movies.
Yeah, I
I
ain't
put
so
up
tough.
channels. Well, because back then we only had 5 channels,
Right,
and the only channels we had were the ones my dad wanted to watch because we only had
right,
a TV and there was no
right.
phone.
One remote, or if that.
I was the remote.
Right, you can get up and change it.
Yeah, okay, go to 5. All
Yeah.
right, go back to 4. All right, see what's on 7 real quick. Back to 2. We're good there. Turn it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I grew up on TV land, so I was, kind of different than the other kids where they're talking about the comics and the cartoons of the time. And I'm like, did you guys see Andy Griffith this morning? That's Barney, you know?
That because that was, I mean, those were the classics we used to watch even when I was a kid,
Yeah.
and but like I said, it was just whatever my dad wanted to watch is what we watched. That's just how that worked in the house.
Yeah. So you watched a lot of old movies and things.
Oh yeah, Sergeant York was probably my favorite old movie with Gary Cooper.
Yeah.
So
Have you seen Gary Cooper in Ball of Fire with Stanwyck since you brought up Stanwyck?
yeah. Ball of Fire.
Yes, written by Billy Wilder. Uh,
Okay.
so the dialogue is great. And it's
Billy
kind of,
Wilder is buried in the Westwood Memorial
oh,
Cemetery.
well, I have to go.
See? Can't believe you haven't been there yet. Don Knotts is buried there.
Oh, he was my first crush ever.
Yeah, he's buried. Mr. Limpet. Yeah, I mean that was
I
huge.
loved The Ghost and Mr. Chicken as a kid and The Love God and Andy Griffith, of course. Yeah, I really want to go. I need to go. I've just been so nervous. I had this thing growing up of like, I don't belong anywhere and I'm not allowed to go places. So I've been slowly kind of conquering that. But for me, I always just feel like I'm going to get in trouble. I forget that you can just go places.
But what
That's silly, huh?
I would say just the last couple of years, my mentality has been saying yes to more things.
I'm
Meaning,
working on it too.
well, because like I'm in LA, like I said about going on the Hollywood tour.
Right,
It's like I'm not going to do that. That's what tourists do. I live here. I don't have to do that. But now
right.
that I've done, I'm like, oh well, there's Iron Man house, and there's this house, and so it's cool. And so we went and looked up my wife and I went and found the Brady Bunch house,
Oh, fun.
which is in the valley. It's right there. It's
Mhm.
backs up to the LA River, which is a concrete river. We went and saw the Poltergeist house. We did where the Lone Ranger was filmed,
Mhm.
Iowa Silver, the original, which was actually right next to Spawn Ranch, which is where Charles Manson lived,
Jeez.
right in the same, like right across from each other.
Yeah. I know
Uh,
there's so much history all around us.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah. And so my wife and I are like, let's go see. We're here. Let's go. We found the Ferris Bueller house it's in Long Beach.
really?
Yeah.
I was on a walk the other day and I was looking at this house and I thought, oh, that's so beautiful. And of course, being nosy, like I said, I went and looked it up. And William Holden used to live there.
Yeah.
I
So,
just love things like that.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I think for me, I just haven't been to the cemetery yet because I don't know. I don't know if I'm like, do I have to? I don't know. I don't know how to go. So I need to just
You just
go and
go.
find out.
it's open. You just go and park.
I
And
know. I just know they do like events and things, so I didn't know if it was more of a if it had.
Westwood, you would probably it's Westwood Memorial is an incredibly small cemetery,
Okay.
and there's probably 50 people you're going to recognize. One of the Beach Boys is buried there. Dominic Dunn is buried there. Carol Ann from Poltergeist is buried there. Um, I mean, there's a ton of people. Like I said,
Yeah.
Truman Capote's buried there. Um,
Gonna
but
go visit our friends.
with your look, you'd probably get some extra stoppages.
Should I go in disguise, you think?
Brunette might work. Yeah. Well, because I mean, everyone goes there to see Marilyn because Marilyn's there and Hugh Hefner's right on top or right below. I think
Too close
he's
for comfort.
well, no, because there was a guy that bought the crypt right above Marilyn, and he
Yeah.
told his wife, "When I die, you have to bury me upside down so I can look at Marilyn for the rest of for eternity." And I'm like, it's kind of creepy.
The spiders, they never quit, even in death, you know?
See? See? But I know Hugh bought the crypt. I think it was below Marilyn from Joe DiMaggio.
Oh,
So,
I don't know.
and they
I
were
mean,
born.
you were
They were
there, but I
born.
didn't know. Yeah,
Hugh and Marilyn were born the same year.
interesting.
They know that I went there. But so I mean, yeah, you just go. There's no
Well,
there's no pass or secret password or it's not a
well, they're
speed.
gonna get sick of me because once I start going, I'm never gonna stop.
Well, it's part of the LA history. I mean, especially that music that cemetery is crazy. I mean, you can walk around it in 5 minutes, 10 minutes. It's tiny,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. Have you been to Forest Lawn at all or no?
because
Yeah,
I'm like you, where I go, God, that's just huge.
yeah. Well, that's the thing, right?
Yeah.
I get intimidated, but I guess, I just need to make a day of it. I want to get a bunch of calla lilies and go lay them around and do
Well,
my thing.
Hollywood Forever Cemetery is a big cemetery too.
Yeah.
When we're at Paramount, but and there's some great Mickey Rooney's buried there, and
Yeah. God, I wish I know she's in Sweden, I think, but I would love to see Greta Garbo's. Have you seen her?
yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah, and like Jim Morrison's in France and that kind of stuff. So
right. Yeah.
you got to get out more.
I know. Story of my life. That's my memoirs title. Gotta get out more.
There you go. See, we just started the book.
Oh, yes.
You don't have
I
a memoir. You're there.
haven't done enough yet.
I know, but you got to write down where you start.
That's true. It's gonna be like driving through a tunnel. It's a lot of dark chapters, and hopefully there'll be light at the end, right?
Well, one of the motivational guys that I listen to a lot is uh, his whole thing was he was talking to a young man, and the young man's like, my dad was a jerk, and he was an a-hole my whole life and treated me terrible. And the
Yeah.
guy goes, you should call him tomorrow and thank him. And he's like, I'm not gonna thank him. What are you talking about? He's been a jerk my whole life. He goes, you have to thank him, and when you thank him, you tell him, thank you for teaching me exactly how I don't want to be through my adulthood.
I mean,
And I was like, oh, that kind of
did he
hurts.
do it?
I don't know, but but it's kind of the mentality, right? It's like
Right.
bad things have
That's how
shaped.
I look at it. Yeah. Well, that's the thing, right? I always think about that like horrible man, but he really like put a fire under me to be like, you have to get to LA.
Yeah,
And knowing me, I would have thought, well, I don't know anybody and I need to like find a place. And it was like kind of it forced me. Um, I tend to do well in trial by fire because I'm a bit of a like I said, I'm a little shy and a little nervous and um yeah, so I'm very grateful for that. And like I said, the number of experiences I've had with people just sort of telling me what my limitations and capabilities are when I know like inside myself how much more there is has kind of forced me to really look at that. And I think it is something to be grateful for. It's just
at the
it,
time it sucks.
at the time it really is it's just kind of almost unbearable and sad, but I'm hopeful that things will get better and things have been steadily better. It's just
Not as fast as you need.
right, the way the world moves so quickly, you get kind of stuck in the cycle of things need to move quicker. And I don't know. I'm trying to trust the timing of everything. You just never know. um, what's around the corner, really. I don't know.
We'll find out. That's
I guess so.
the beauty of it all. Well, hey, what's the best way for my listeners to kind of follow you? Is it what is your names on all your social media platforms?
So for Instagram, it's Jeri, Jeri. And then for some reason, I decided to go really nuts with the underscores. So it's Jeri underscore Mae underscore James underscore. Why did I don't know why I did that. Um, I'm gonna blame it on my frontal lobe not being developed. I don't know why I did that, but
Well, now you're the underscore girl.
I guess so.
Yeah.
Jeez, I don't know what that means. Oh, I don't know. And then on TikTok, it's just Jeri Mae James. Everywhere else, it's just Jeri Mae James.
Okay.
Yeah. And if I see you on Sunday, thanks for coming by in advance. I know this will come out after, but I've never done an in-person thing before, so
Oh, really?
I'm nervous. I told you.
There's only going to be a couple hundred people there at the most, I would
A
think.
100. I think there's gonna be about 10, but we'll see.
Well, we'll see. So if it's 10 people, that's easy.
I don't know.
You'll be fine. You'll be a rock
Nope. Yeah, we'll see. Well, if you're in town, come by, get some coffee. Bring your wife. I'd love to meet her.
star. I have to be careful going on Magnolia with my wife.
Oh, I know it's dangerous. Lots of vintage there.
It gets expensive.
Yeah, but Besame closed and Pinup Girl's gone, and
Yeah, I know Pug's gone, so that helps.
yeah,
It helps my wallet. But
it should be
and
okay.
like I said, Vixen, she's kind of gone through Vixen pretty well. So, but it's still the vintage stores.
I know. Just conveniently leave your money at home, you know?
Can't do that though, right? So it's when she
The
went into
cost.
Vixen. I can prove to you I go to museums because when she went into Vixen, directly next door is the martial arts museum that I chose to go in and spend some time while she was shopping
Mhm.
in the little pink building. I decided to go into the martial arts museum just because I didn't want to be in Vixen anymore.
Did you learn things?
Huh?
Did you learn anything?
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. You always learn something. Yeah. It's yeah, well, see if we can get into it, but see, I did Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and they had a small section, but you can always tell like that museum, it's like, the Peterson Museum,
Mm.
where they do things. So this museum was heavy into karate, so a lot of their emphasis in the museum was on karate people and not a lot of the other martial arts. But that's just my policy. So yeah, that'd be what time is it on Sunday?
It's from 3. I think we're going till 5, but we'll see how long we're up and running. But it's 3 o'clock on a Sunday, which is a kind of strange time to have coffee, but
Not in
uh,
this town. I
no,
mean,
not in
I
this
see
town. Not
people
for
at
me.
I see people at night drinking coffee. It's like
I know.
it's
Yeah,
a
so
nonstop thing.
should be fun. I'm gonna hand out some flyers this week and we'll see if anybody comes. It should be fun.
Well, you can do what
Yeah.
you can and show up.
Yeah, it's good coffee, so I'll be happy either way.
Exactly. And you get to look at yourself as a brunette.
Yes. Yeah, that bag I shot right in this room actually. So
You gonna you'll be signing bags and that kind of stuff?
oh yeah, definitely.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah. I have some prints I might bring from the coffee shoot I have leftovers, so maybe I'll do that. I don't know.
There you go. Are you going to do a calendar for 2025?
I'm thinking about it. I'm looking at last year's right now. It won't be as advanced as last year's was. Last year with I made the costumes and like themed each shoot for the month. I am thinking I might do a 2025, but it'll all be photos you're familiar with from social media and things. So
So you've got plenty to.
I have a lot to pull with. I always want to give people their money's worth, you know? So for me, it's like, if they've already seen these photos, like kind of takes away some of the excitement a little bit. Um, but people have said they still want it and I'd be happy to make it. So why not?
Where will they be able to buy that?
That's the tricky thing. So I had to shut down my website, so I need to build a new one. So I'm gonna guess it would be at jerimaejames.com. I currently own that domain, but I need to also build a website before November. So wish
Okay.
me luck.
But
Yeah. But
hey,
if not,
thank you so much for the time. It's
of course.
love talking to you and getting to know you. And of course, I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
So,
I
and
wish you luck on the podcast. It's exciting
yeah, it's a lot of fun.
doing
Great
what you're
news.
passionate about. Love it.
Thanks, Jerry. And I'll make sure to share all your social tags on my website as well. So
I appreciate it. Thank you.
have a great day.
You too.